I arrived Phuket late in the night. As soon as I woke up and went downstairs for the free breakfast, I found a trip to James Bond Island that was leaving within 15 minutes. Got ready quickly and took the airplane from my hotel at 7 a.m. It took them an hour to drop tourists at Lam Sai Pier. We were transferred into a speedboat and we were on our way to the island. I'm glad we took a speedboat. During the day, we passed several bigger and slower boats which won't give you as many stops as we got, but instead you might get a nice tan on the sun deck. Our boat slowed down to show us Phanak Island. All trips there, including this one, offered free fruits, snacks, soft drinks, cold water, lunch, life jacket, canoeing gear, and round-trip transfers to the hotels. On the way, the boat would slow down to show us Ice Cream Cave. Anyway, finally we arrived Hong Island to see a cave. Hong in Thai language means room. As we stopped at the beach, one of the crew members armed with a torch went inside to check for crocodiles. Once it was safe to enter, each one of us was given a hard hat and a flashlight, and we entered into the cave through a small opening in a line. It was pitch dark, and at some places water was waist high. As in any limestone cave, several stalagmites were hanging down, but none of them was remarkable. We had to walk through this cave for at least 100 yards before we ended up in an open area. Another spectacular view is the large flat leaning wall. It is located in the cave at the middle of the island. Northern Phang Nga Bay is home to some similar wonderful sea caves that lead into the center of its many karst, collapsed limestone islands with a lagoon in their center. At low tide, the lagoons are reduced to mud. This means that tours vary in their running order in relation to tides and lunar influence, while destinations essentially remain the same. We were told that later in the afternoon the tide gets too high and we would not be able to make it through the hole, and in fact couldn't stay too long in the fear of tide coming in. Beaches and caves in this area are regularly flooded with the tides, which have an amplitude of 7 to 10 feet, so access to some caves is only possible during low tide. There wasn't much to see here, but it was cool nonetheless. We embarked on the boat again and sped off towards Khao Pheng Khan Island. Khao in Thailand means island. On the way, the boat slowed down to show us Scooby-Doo shaped figures among several different shaped limestone hills. It was amazing. The most distinctive features of Phang Nga Bay and what makes it such a popular spot to explore is the sheer limestone cast that protrude vertically out of the mint green water. It really is a sight to see. Finally, we arrived Khao Pheng Khan Island. Since 1974, when this place was featured in the James Bond movies The Man with the Golden Gun and Tomorrow Never Dies, Khao Pheng Khan has been popularly called James Bond Island. Khao Tha Phu is a limestone rock about 66 feet tall, with the diameter increasing from about 13 feet near the water level to about 26 feet at the top. It lies about 130 feet to the west from the northern part of Khao Pheng Khan. In the Permian period, the area was a barrier reef. Then upon tectonic movements, it ruptured and its parts were disposed over the area and flooded by the rising ocean. Winds, waves, water currents, and tides gradually eroded the island, thus formed sometime producing peculiar shapes such as Koh Tha Phu. Tide-related erosion is visible at the bottom of the rock. Since 1998, it is forbidden for tourist boats to approach Koh Tha Phu. This measure aims to stop erosion of the limestone rocks on and near the islet that might eventually result in its collapse. We were given about 45 minutes on James Bond Island, which was plenty. Everyone was free to explore on their own, and the guides would round all up when it was time to go. Due to its popularity, the island is now filled with sellers of various stuff and quite crowded, as you might assume. There were a fair amount of visitors on the island. When I was there were around 300 people total. This island also has a bazaar of shops set up for souvenirs. As I was growing up, I always wanted to be James Bond. I asked around if they were looking for an actor for an upcoming James Bond movies that would be filmed around here. When I found out all answers negative, I got sad, but was worth a try. Here went my acting career as James Bond down the drain. Just kidding. It was time to move on. After leaving James Bond Island, it was time for a longer stop at Khao Phanak. We traveled around 10 minutes or so by boat to a floating pier in which the boats docked, and we got off. Here we embarked on a large barge. It was time for some canoeing. We were then lined up and got assigned a canoe in which there were actually someone doing all the paddling for us. We got a very nice guy paddling for us, and then they set off into the caves. Some caves were so low that we had to lay down in the canoe to be able to pass. One mistake and I would have had biggest headache of my life. It was scary but fun. Phang Nga Bay covers an area of 250 square miles and is home to some 100 islands, many of which could be entered for the Guinness Book of Records either for their beauty or for their freakish shape. Waters around the islands are only few meters deep and are pale green in color. The bottom is covered with silt, which is brought to the Phang Nga Bay by several rivers from the north. Shallow water depth, warm, stable temperature, and rich nutrient supply from mangrove forest and several rivers running into the Phang Nga Bay result in abundant plankton and other marine life. Most of the island is covered with deciduous limestone, shrubland, and evergreen trees. Some plants grow on nearby soil-free cliffs such as those of Koh Tao Phu, penetrating their roots into the numerous rocks and surviving on rainwater. If you love adventure and nature, Phang Nga Bay in Thailand is one destination that you need to have on your bucket list. You will no doubt recognize it from countless postcards, travel guides, and photos featured on travel websites. It's one destination I never thought I would have the opportunity to explore, and here I was. My dream was becoming real. Adventuring around Phang Nga Bay can get hot, very hot. I was told that week the heat broke 150 years record. I was simply burning with heat. Even the seawater was very hot. I tipped the paddler a few hundred Thai baht and it was time for some lunch. We were headed for Koh Phangan for the speedboat rushing through the waves. Here they served us a buffet of Thai dishes that tasted great, featuring deep fried and battered tempura, fried rice, mixed veggie and fish dishes, chicken soup, sweet and sour whole fish. It's as much feast for the eyes as for the stomach. There's one thing Thai people organize well on a tour, and it's food. Due to lack of knowledge, ordering Thai food in a restaurant can be a big disappointment. Here, I could sample several varieties and wrote down the names of Thai dishes that I liked. We were given an hour to explore, and I decided to walk into the village that's entirely built upon water. I found nice bargains for pearls and souvenirs. If they ask for 1,500 baht, offer them 100 baht. Just walk away. They will immediately come down to 500 baht. Keep on walking and they'll settle it for 150 baht. This is a tradition here, so please do not take it in a wrong way. Koh Phangan is a floating village built by Muslim fishermen. Only three families of fishermen migrated here about 200 years ago from Indonesia. Today, about 300 families live here and all of them are Muslims. This village has several beautiful houses and a remarkable mosque that's visible from far away. I was amazed to see such a beautiful mosque built in this floating village. Inside the mosque, it was decorated with Quranic verses, stained glass windows, marble floor, and a beautiful chandelier. The 1 hour went by very fast and it was time to move on. Before heading home to the port, we made a swim stop at the beaches of Lava Island. Lava in Malaysian means pretty. The guide told us to stick to the northern part of the beach if we wanted to swim, as there are sharp rocks at the southern end. There was a small fee for a beach chair, and there were several vendors selling beverages and food. There were some selling jet ski rentals too. I laid out in the shade with my towel for about an hour or so and waded in the warm water for a bit. The beach was really nice and clear. Felt really nice to have a refreshing bath and cold coconut water lying on the white shores with green palm trees waving above. There were two swings offering a perfect photo opportunity. This whole day trip was a really nice way of spending a day in the Phuket archipelago and I really recommend it. The most popular and overcrowded tourist area in Phuket is Patang Beach, and that's where I decided to stay. This town is filled with anything that a tourist may want, including hotels and great restaurants that serve all kinds of Thai dishes. Phuket is one of the southern provinces of Thailand. It consists of the island of Phuket, the country's largest island, and another 32 smaller islands off its coast. It lies off the west coast of Thailand in the Andaman Sea. Phuket Island is connected by the Sarasin Bridge to Phang Nga province to the north. The next nearest province is Krabi to the east across Phang Nga Bay. Phuket province has an area somewhat less than that of Singapore and is the second smallest province of Thailand. It formerly derived its wealth from tin and rubber and enjoys a rich and colorful history. The island was on one of the major trading routes between India and China and was frequently mentioned in foreign shiplogs of Portuguese, French, Dutch, and English traders. The region now derives much of its income from tourism. I went to Karon Viewpoint and the view was awesome. On 26th of December 2004, Phuket and other nearby areas on Thailand's western coast suffered extensive damage when they were struck by tsunami caused by the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake. The waves destroyed several highly populated areas in the region, killing up to 5,300 people nationwide and tens of thousands more throughout the Asian region. Some 250 were reported dead in Phuket, including foreign tourists. Almost all of the major beaches on the west coast, especially Kamala, Patang, Karon, and Kata, sustained major damage. Since then, they have rebuilt and I did not find any remnants of the damage. Here, the rain comes without any warnings, and that's what happened. I ran under an awning and saw a unique way of making ice cream. I always avoid milk and milk products while traveling, but I had to experience this ice cream. I ordered mango ice cream. The vendor put all the ingredients exactly the way I wanted on a freezing plate and mixed it well. By then, the paste was already freezing. Then she spread the paste well on the plate. It froze as she was spreading. She sliced the ice cream and gave it to me. It was my first experience. By the way, ice cream tasted so well. The next day, I decided to take a tour of the city and nearby attraction. On the way, the tour stopped for elephant tracking. I didn't want to ride an elephant at that time, but they pulled off all sorts of tricks and I gave in. However, I chose to take the elephant safari for only 15 minutes. The elephant's name was Madonna, and she would raise her trunk whenever I took her name. While I was teasing Madonna, I could sense that she did not welcome me being on top. Earlier, I had fed bananas to a baby elephant who had reciprocated me with several kisses and hugs by using her trunk. Madonna was too cold in that turn. Maybe she wanted to be on top of me. That thought gave me a weird feeling in my spine and I immediately stopped teasing her. Also, the view was so spectacular I stopped thinking of that possibility. Madonna would stop briefly for eating roadside freshly grown grass and would continue. At one time, the mahout wanted me to sit on top of her neck while he offered to take my photos. I refused. Soon this trip ended and I thanked God to be alive. The next stop was Big Buddha that sits over 1,300 feet above sea level on a hilltop south of Phuket Island. This is the Buddhist temple and the usual rules of modest dressing, strict respect to Buddha images must be observed. And please remove your shoes in the areas where you see others removing theirs. At the end of main reception area, you can, after removing your shoes, approach to the seated monk. Try to make yourself at a lower height than him by stooping or shuffling along your knees. Watch that what Thais do and do the same. You will then receive a special blessing and a charm to tie on your wrist. Do remember that females cannot receive this charm directly from monk. He will place it in front of you or ask some male to give it to you. Now, if you got blessing from monk, you should know that something about the 2500 years old Buddhism. Buddha monks are learning to see things as they are and not as they should be, to split yourself from illusions and expectation to get a better human. As I started to climb the steps, the way was lined with hundreds of bells. One can buy a bell and hang it here to ring in the wind on the hilltop. The sound of all these bells is somewhat magical. Reaching the top of the steps, I was right underneath the statue. It is very big. The image is 145 feet in height and is covered in white Burmese marble through the whole of the base, including giant lotus leaves, which means love and happiness. It's dedicated to Honorable King Bhumibol Adulyadej in honor of his 80th birthday. It is the largest white marble Buddha image anywhere in the world and has already become popular and famous attraction for tourists to be a place of significance for local people and everyone from other regions in Thailand. There is also a smaller brass Buddha here, 40 feet in height and constructed of 22 tons of brass dedicated to Honorable Queen Sirikit. Impressive enough but dwarfed by the white marble Buddha. This was completed several years ago. Having your name and the names of your loved one as part of a Buddha statue is considered very good luck. The view of Coron Beach from here is simply awesome. Buddhist garden landscape with rock feature, grass area, flowers, shrubs, and natural environment is designed for peace, relaxation, and meditation. Some say that the early morning is the best time to visit Big Buddha. With cooling, sometimes cold winds, you can watch the sun rising across Shillong Bay and the beauty of the sun's reflection in calm sea waters. Looking from the other side of Shillong Bay, it is an awesome inspiring sight to watch the sun slowly setting behind Big Buddha, slowly forming a silhouette of this remarkable image as its features are darkened. While going back, I saw this place used as a dormitory for the temple monks. What an extremely simple life! Simply amazing. I also found photos of various people famous who believe in Buddhism. In my opinion, the Big Buddha is well worth a visit. Our next stop was Thai Honey Farm. They are one of the major bee farm company of Thailand. Their business include bee farming, production, promoting the research and use of bee products. Since 1999, as a small firm, they have kept pioneering in promoting Thailand's beekeeping quality and bee culture. The company is now operating with a network of more than 50 bee farms under Thai Organic Beekeeper Association. Here one can buy all sorts of honey and the related products. Since I live in upstate New York where bee farming is necessary to pollinate fruit orchids and I can buy honey at a very reasonable rate, I did not find this place interesting at all. However, several tourists bought lots and lots of honey from this place. Once trip ended and we got back in the van, they shared the miracles in their lives associated with honey. Thailand is famous for its majestic rubies and sapphire stones. On the way, we stopped at Wangthalang Gems outlet where they sell beautiful stones jewelry but at a highly inflated price. Our next stop was Cashew Nut Factory. It has a very spacious car park for customers and a sales area with rows and rows of low racks displaying many types of snacks, tidbits, crackers, and candies with a wide assortment of flavors which were all pre-packed in attractive and hygienic containers and boxes. There were a few racks of cashew nut products produced in a variety of combinations with other food stuff like sesame seeds and seaweed to offer a more varied choice of the customers. But it's funny that a larger part of their products on sale were non-cashew nut related. A tour of Cashew Nut Factory provided me with an insight into the processing of cashew nuts and to see how painstakingly these treasured and fragrant nuts are extracted and baked. The cashew apple is a light reddish to yellow fruit. The shell of the cashew seed yields derivatives that can be used in many applications from lubricants to paints. Cashew nut is also called kaju in many languages. The fruit of the cashew tree is a kidney-shaped drupe that grows at the end of the cashew apple. The drupe develops first on the tree and then the pedicel expands to become the cashew apple. Within the true fruit is a single seed, which is often considered a nut in the culinary sense. The seed is surrounded by a double shell containing potent skin irritant. Properly roasting cashews destroys the toxin, but it must be done outdoors as the smoke contains droplets which can cause severe, sometimes life-threatening reactions by irritating the lungs. I once tried to break the nut with my teeth, and it instantly caused severe pain on my lips. The lips turned black in a few hours, and it took them 2 weeks to heal. Now you heard it firsthand, so never try it. As the name implied, I expected to buy big bags of roasted or raw cashew nuts like those on sale in Indochina, but it was not to be. They have become very commercialized, selling only processed food in various forms and flavors, but in smaller packing, focusing mainly on the tourist market. Another negative observation is that the things on sale there were all very pricey. Indeed, in comparison to similar products sold elsewhere in Phuket or even Thailand. Lots of various flavors of cashew nuts were there for free sampling. I tasted them all, and my favorites were the butter, coconut, sesame, honey, garlic, and the sweet chili cashews. Our last stop was Shillong Temple. Wat Shillong is the largest of Phuket's temples and the most visited one. Don't forget to take your shoes off. Wat Shillong has been extending a warm welcome to visitors for over a century, where Westerns come to learn something about Buddhism. Locals and many Thai tourists come to pray and pay respect to several revered monks who were the founders of Wat Shillong, among them Luang Pu Cham and Luang Pu Chuang, two monks who were well known for herbal medicine and took care of local villagers and negotiated for a settlement during a Chinese miners' rebellion in the 1870s. Shillong Temple is also on the route of many tours and is certainly a worthwhile stop off point. Pothan Jo Wat is one of the more important Buddhist statues in Wat Shillong. It is located in the westerly old hall of the temple with two statues of an elderly gentleman called Hakilek. Another statue in this hall is called Nonsi. One of the temple's hall features a gilt-covered statue of Luang Pu Cham, and this busy hall also contains statues of Luang Pu Chong and Luang Pu Glem, all ex-abbots of the temple. Wat Shillong is a big place with several buildings, including the main temple with the statues of revered monks where people can pray, apply gold leaf to the statues, light incense and candles, etc. There is another Chedai with a tall tower in which one finds painted walls with scenes from the life of Buddha and many Buddha images. At the top of the tower is what is said to be a fragment of bone of Buddha himself. There is also an air-conditioned building containing wax works of the revered monks. In any Buddhist temple, people write down the names on bricks. Buddhists believe that if they donate a brick to a temple, passerby will pay respect to their names even after they die. If they donate a roof, their names get written down on the roof that will look after the Buddhism and Buddha image. If you give a bell for hanging on a Buddha's temple roof, the name of the given bells will make sure that the temple will not get deserted. Thai people desire to write their names on given big bell because they wish to be an angel sound to wake monks up for morning prayers before sunrise. Buddhist people come to the temple to pay respect to Buddha by lighting candles, offering lotus flowers, and applying gold leaves to Buddha's statue. Often you will see firecrackers being set off as a way of showing gratitude for prayers that have been answered. My next trip was to the Krabi province. This trip started from Ao Nang Pier. From archaeological discoveries, it is believed that this area was one of the oldest communities in Thailand, dating back to the prehistoric period. Phi Phi Don was initially populated by Muslim fishermen from Indonesia during the late 1940s and later became a coconut plantation. The Thai population of Phi Phi Don remains more than 80% Muslims. There are 6 islands in the group known as Phi Phi. 25 miles southeast of Phuket, which is home to an abundance of coral and marine life. There are limestone mountains with cliffs, caves, and long white sandy beaches. Phi Phi Don and Phi Phi Lee are the largest and most well-known islands. These islands offer an untouched solitude you will find in only a few locations on the whole planet Earth. There are certainly very few locations which are this beautiful. Our first stop was Phi Phi Don, which is the largest island of this archipelago. This island is commonly called Phi Phi Island. We embarked from the boat and a Thai lunch was waiting for us. Every year there is a small memorial service where family members and friends come to pay their respect and talk about those who lost. A moment of silence is observed at the time the tsunami hit. There were three waves. The first one flooded the bay, the second destroyed all the wooden buildings, and the third and largest ruined stone buildings as if they were made of sand. The whole tsunami lasted for only 3 minutes, from 10:29 a.m. to 10:32 a.m., but it nearly destroyed the whole island. While much of the island is a so-called marine reserve, not much is being done about the rampant growth on the island and destruction of the reefs. Also litter, usually in the form of canes and plastic bags, is strewn all over certain areas of popular beaches. However, since Phi Phi Don is popular for diving and snorkeling, the locals have done away with dynamite fishing and other harmful activities that had probably threatened the reef even more than tourism. Our next stop was the Viking Cave on the far side of the smaller Phi Phi Lake, where elaborate scaffolds allow workers to gather the nest used for birds' nest soup. It looked about ready to collapse. The name comes from the cave paintings that are to be seen on the walls of the cave that show European and Chinese designed sailing ships. It's surprisingly not known who created these pictures or what date they were painted. It's unlikely that the pictures are of Viking ships, but it looks good on the brochures. The islands are known to have been inhabited for over 1,000 years, with the early residents being sea gypsies who don't have any tradition of cave painting. The outside of the cave is covered bamboo scaffolds to aid the nest collectors to climb to the top of the 325 feet high cavern to collect the nests. Not sure what the birds think of this, but in February at breeding season, the first two nests that a pair of swiftlets make get collected before allowing them to keep the third for their eggs. The caves themselves are not open to the public to protect both the swiftlets and the paintings. Finally, the boat approached the Maya Bay. The approach was greeted by wow and oh expressions from our fellow traveler. The boat stopped in the water and we had to walk through knee-high water to reach the beach. Speaking of the beach, have you also seen the famous movie The Beach? You know, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio and a bunch of kids looking for a little slice of utopia on an undiscovered island paradise. This is the island, and the movie was filmed here in 2000. Since then, the island has seen a dramatic increase in visitors, which has had a negative impact on marine life and corals in the area. The set from the movie is long gone, and the bay does not look anything like the movie. It's far bigger and not at all secretly closed in. Thai name for this beautiful island is Koh Phi Phi Lake. It's one of the best beaches for vacation in the world. This is the second largest island of the Phi Phi archipelago in the part of the Andaman. It is 4 square miles in total area, 2 miles in length, and less than 1 mile at its broadest point. Here, people can feel the real freedom and forget about everything. This wonderful tidal blue lagoon looks incredible. There's about 800 feet of the pure white sandy beach along the crystal clear water and of course wonderful palm trees there. Clear water allows light to shine through the right level. Another impressive thing of Maya Bay where the sand is white, soft like powder. Sediments from the bay have very little influence. Maya Bay is also popular for diving and is surrounded by 250 feet steep limestone cliffs on 3 sides. Trust me, it's paradise. Visitors are not allowed to sleep on the small island of Pipile, a nature reserve. Until 2012, it was possible to camp in Maya Bay. It's now prohibited. The only way to sleep in Maya Bay is to spend the night on a boat. The effects of the 2004 tsunami and the increased water temperature had a bad effect on the coral around the islands. So it's not as full as life as it was, but there are signs that it's recovering. However, the tsunami dramatically improved the look of Maya Bay's beachfront. The high waves had cleaned up the beach and removed all the landscaping the Fox production team had added. The week following my visit, they were debating close Maya Bay to help save marine life. I guess I was lucky to be there before the closure. Anyway, after swimming in these amazing turquoise color warm waters, I decided to walk around in the island. I walked through the jungle, species growing on exposed coastal headlands and along beaches have thick prop roots as anchors in the loose sand. The most distinct and abundant trees were those of screw trees. Their prop roots emerge from the stem, usually close to but above the ground, which help keep the plants upright and secure them to the ground. This provides support as the tree grows top heavy with leaves, fruit, and branches. They can withstand drought, strong winds, and salt spray. The leaves extract is called kevra, which is also commonly used to flavor Indian desserts and curries. Finally, I arrived to a lookout point on the other side. The time went by very fast and it was time to leave. One of God's name is the designer. At this moment, I was thinking what a design and what a wonderful creation this was. Simply amazing and breathtaking. I felt sad leaving this paradise island. There are some places in my travel map that I can never forget. Of all the beaches that I have seen so far around the world, if I have to choose one, that would be Maya Bay, Thailand. A beach so perfect that any other beach that you see after that will look like a compromise. I'll call it the Maya Bay effect. On the way back, we stopped at Koh Mai Pai, which is also called Bamboo Island. Here we embarked from the boat and relaxed on the beach. We stopped at In Klong to do some open sea snorkeling. We also stopped at Nui Bay, a small sheltered bay, for some more open water snorkeling. Enjoy!